myself unemployed. And a 50-plus-year-old woman looking for work in this community was impossible. Nobody wanted me. Here I am. And that was a really tough point because I attributed my value as the paycheck I bring into my family, not the value I have of experience. And so what I did was I made a full-time job of diving into this community. I networked full-time, everything local, groups that I heard of that I thought would be interesting. And in a rather serendipitous turn, I met a man named Tom Bueller at a the Racine Green Business Association or something like that. It's about businesses that are coming together to have a focus on green manufacturing and practices in their business. And I'm also a water educator.
Okay,
Maybe
that's
we'll
another.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother.
So that attracted me. So anyway, a parking lot conversation where Tom Bueller said, I have this little idea called Visioning a Greater Racine. Wondering if you'd be available to do some part-time consulting, like contracting work and things. So I did, and it was about 5 people that came together and said, we grew up here. It was an amazing community, rich with manufacturing and community. How can we bring that spirit back? So I'm like, okay, I've basically spent a career working in communities outside of this one. So I became executive director of Visioning a Greater Racine, and had oversaw about 500 volunteers, and we did visioning sessions in Racine, and we asked, 1,600 people.
Yeah.
What would it take for Racine to be a flourishing community we can all be proud to call home? And I learned so much, and I actually fell in love with my community through that process. Well, COVID hit, and volunteers, their roles, nobody's going out, everybody's in isolation. How do you run a community engagement organization when you can't be face-to-face and engaged? So again, I found myself kind of floundering. What do I do? Long story short, I've always known how to throw a damn good party.
He's pretty talented.
I used to just privately run a little catering service. In the space that we're sitting in here, I ran several fundraisers that were really successful. And COVID affected everyone, nobody was immune. And it affected the business that was in this space, a record shop. If you look at the bar, you can see the bar is all old speakers. It's such a cool space. Well, this space was like my Cheers. I came in, Jeff and Jada, who own Long Shot Vinyl, would see me. Jeff would have that Scotch ale popped open, and I'm like, Norm, Joan. It was such a special space to me. Well, COVID gave Jada an opportunity to partner up, because this was a big space for record sales, and she was getting inquiries for events, and that wasn't her cup of tea. So she moved in a few doors down with another storefront. I kept on Chris Hafel. We need to have something in this space, it's so cool. And she says, it should be an event space. And I'm like, that would be so cool. Well, when you're ready to hire an event coordinator, you let me know. And then I saw an auction in Chicago where some rental business was selling chairs for $1. Chris, we gotta get some chairs. I'll go down there and I'll get 50 chairs. Well, then in February, she said, okay, we're done talking, come down here. So we sat in that corner and she said, hey, look, this space is empty, and this space is a space that has to have people. We have the hugely successful Roberta. We are adjacent. I can open those doors to one of the coolest, best restaurants in Racine. Of course, the 6th Street Theater is only a door away. I've been active there 19 years. And then Perennial Soaps and Long Shot Vinyl. And she said, this space, this historic, beautiful, unique space needs to have people. I can't hire you, but let's chat about what I can do for you. It was criminal what she offered me, and for the space and to get it going and get people in. And I think I just stared at her with my jaw And I said, I must look like a deer in the headlights because Chris, you just plopped my dream right on my lap. You're asking me to create a space for people to come together. Oh, I can do that. I can, everything I do, I have such high expectations for myself. If you're here and you're not, forgetting or relaxing or, being part of an experience, then I don't feel I would be doing my job. So I grand opening was March of this year. It's June 3rd, something like that.
Yeah.
I went into, the sad part is a lot of what we have here was already in my basement. So that storage unit of my basement came here, and I went into huge acquisition mode, 55 chairs from an auction and stuff like that. So I've had a few events, incredible events. The first one was the virtual prom for the LGBTQ of Southeast Wisconsin. My cheeks hurt for 2 days. I was smiling so much, and and a few events since then. But it's not just a space, and it's really, I want this to be an experience. I want everyone walking in here to enjoy the history of it. This was originally YMCA, the YMCA in Racine. Before that, it was an opera house. Then it became Red Cross Drugstore, which you see when you walk in the door. The mosaic tiles were original. The plaster work is all, original. It's just a great space.
There was a fire here at one point, right?
Oh, you want to hear that all out already? Because I'll go there.
Right.
So, like I said, this space was originally the Blake Opera House, and the Blake Opera House went down about 5 storefronts on this space. It had a hotel. It was a gem of an opera house because it was a national stop for tours, like touring companies, opera companies, actors, and New York companies would play here. And then on December 28th, 1884, the Blake Opera House burned to the ground, and 3 people died in that fire. A married couple, Jenny and Russell Glover, they were actors, and a housemaid or like housekeeping or something like that, a woman named S.A. Patrick. So 3 people passed in that fire. And then in 1886, the YMCA was built. And this is the building that we're in. It was built in 1886. So it's 3 floors. The second floor, and so I can have 50 people in here now, but the space directly above me is a ballroom with a beautiful ceiling medallion and a stage, and obviously space for maybe 200 plus people. So there's expansion possibility. Chris and Andy Hull in the building are looking for financing to be able to accomplish that. It's a beautiful space. And the 3rd floor is like a time capsule or I think they call it the Roper. There's an apartment up there that looks like it's right out of Three's Company. Like 19... I don't own any of the building, I lease, but yes, Andy and Chris own from here to Long Shot Vinyl and Perennial Soaps and all the way up. But it looks like Mr. Roper closed the door and left in 1974, and it's still that way. What's also cool is when it was the Red Cross Drugstore, this was the main film developing, place. In the olden days when we used film cameras, you brought your film to the drugstore and they would ship it here. And upstairs is the dark rooms and the lab and the processing. And there's pegs in the walls labeled the drugstores, like Pokorny's drugs, pegs, Langs, it's a time capsule.
It's haunted too.
Yeah, do you have any ghostly tenants?
Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah. Joan is also a big fan of ghost hunting.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, I will share with you that on October 31st, we're having, October 30th, I'm having a roundtable haunted Racine here. I've got Ron Helmick is probably the most notable paranormal investigator in Racine. He's going to be here. We've actually done investigations here. Ron, we just did one a month and a half ago. So the 30th is going to be anyone who wants to share or learn more about Haunted Racine. I'm just going to have a night for storytelling. I have held a seance here on the 135th anniversary of the Blake Opera House fire, which was December 28th.
Did you talk to any of the three?
The medium that was with us, Russell came through. We think it was Russell.
This kind of stuff.
What? So I could talk for days about this kind of stuff. And actually, I got a call 2 days ago from an upcoming author about Haunted Racine, and he wants to meet and chat. But very briefly, the last investigation, because I've been involved with the theater, I'll tell you, there are a few people who refuse to go down the basement in the theater. I had an experience there once, but I'll still go down. I'm more afraid of the centipedes in this building than any ghost.
What's scary about it? Are they mean ones?
No, there hasn't been a mean thing happen. Almost to the contrary. Absolutely to the contrary. My experience in the theater basement, it's no secret. I was ascending the stairs. All of our costumes and props are down there, so I was down there shopping. And as I started to walk up the stairs, I heard what sounded like 1,000 mirrors crashing or windows smashing. And I felt a breeze so strong that it parted my hair in the back. And as I turned around, and there was no smashed mirrors, I knew that we don't have 200 panes of glass, stacked up down there. But as I started coming up, a fellow actor came down and said, "What happened? Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh, you heard that too?" And he said, "Yeah, what the heck?" And I said, "There's nothing down there that crashed." And he said, "Oh, okay," because we just kind of write it off. It just happens. But the last investigation was super, super interesting. We did have a medium. He's only told shortly before he gets here where he's going. So I did an hour and a half walkthrough with this medium, and he confirmed a lot of interesting things that have happened. One thing I can tell you, when I first moved into the space, I was set up for a photo shoot, and I had a 32-foot table down the center of the room. And, based on the black and white grid, I was anally making sure all the chairs lined up on the same grid every night before I went to bed.
I love you.
Yeah. It satisfies a lot of
3 mornings in a row. 3 mornings in a row, I came into the 4 chairs on the right side of the table, just moved off the grid. And I asked Andy, who has all of his woodworking stuff downstairs, "Did you have?" And he's like this. He's like, "I might have bumped one." I said, "But you didn't change all 4 chairs 3 days." I didn't do that. So when the medium came, he came in and said, "There's like a jokester here," and he said, he picked up on so many things. You don't have enough time for me to share all of it. On the 30th when you come. But one of the things he did happen was when he was outside waiting, as I filled in the team, the history of the building, he said there's a woman on the 3rd floor who was screaming and frantic. And I thought, nobody has ever said that before. Well, then we do the walkthrough, and I can't tell you how many people have said, there's something in the hallway. There's a feeling of presence. And when I can't even remember the medium's name at the moment, but when we got into the hallway, he goes, "Oh, well, we have a welcome reception here. There is a gentleman at the end of the hall wearing a hat, and he is like saying, 'Welcome,' in a very theatrical manner." Many people, Jada included, have seen a man in a bowler at the end of that hallway peeking out. So lots of people saying the same thing. Now, that 3rd floor experience intrigued me. I went back and looked. Now, the New York Times wrote an article the day after the fire, because it was all New York actors in the touring company. Sure enough, a woman on the third floor was rescued from the fire. So
Wow.
I did not know that. I didn't. So that there's no way that medium could have gotten the address. I really had to dig when I was looking for articles on those specifics. So yeah, it's awesome. All the way down.
So it's perfect that you are here.
It is. It's not an accident.
It's business.
Yeah. It's always been a really cool space for me.
I think it's amazing that in 1884, it only took 2 years to get a new building up on this lot.
Right.
And here we are in 2021, and how many years has that lot been in here?
Yeah. Right. Well, this was a really industrious time for Racine, and I keep coming. So this medium pulled out, vision a man in the basement poring over a huge drafting table with blueprints upon blueprints and looking at things. And he said, this man is not just involved in this building, he was really building this community. He had his hand in a lot of things, leading in this community. And I told him it could be Blake, Lucius Blake, who the Blake Opera House was named after. His house is on Main Street. And he had said there's a different kind of a name, like a German name associated. And I said, Lucius Blake, and he goes, that's not German. But mediums can pick up stuff from all over. He did also say, this is the last I'll say about it, down our basement is a paranormal superhighway. That it's like the grand central of activity.
Well, I think the conclusion of this day should be, let's go tour the basement.
After dark.
Firestarters ends in ghost hunting.
Yeah.
What was the main industry here in Racine back in the day?
I think a better question would have been what was it?
Oh, yeah.
We pulled the most amount of patents for any other city in the United States. One thing after another, from case to Horlicks multi-milk tablets to
Candy cane too, right?
Yes, good point.
I remember that from one of the
The
events
crook.
we did together, that was part of her.
Candy canes were always handmade, but when they wanted to do mass production, the candy cane crook was invented here, and it's the machine that literally bends the candy cane.
So it was the Great Depression what kind of completed some industries.
It would have been, the half horsepower motor was invented here by Hamilton Beach. The predecessor was somebody else. But those malt machines that you see were Hamilton Beach. This is an adult audience, so I can't say the first patent for a personal massager is held by Hamilton Beach. I mean, you name it, just about anything you could think of was made here.
So what caused the industry to move away?
Same as Kenosha, like AMC was there, and blue collar jobs, manufacturing jobs just got, cut down. Overseas, production was cheaper labor. Look at all of our empty, buildings where the brownfields are. Case was here, Case Tractors.
I guess the proximity to Chicago probably is really convenient.
I can attest to that, but I'm sure so many factors were a part of it. But we are no different than any other community that had that same thing. The difference between communities, how resilient they can be and bounce back and reinvent themselves, like Rockford,
Yeah.
When Visioning a Greater Racine was active, we modeled ourselves after Rockford, Illinois. They were labeled the third most miserable city in the United States to live 8 years ago, something like that. They're now one of the hottest selling real estate markets. They have an organization called Transform Rockford, which went into the community and said, what do we need to do here? The mayor, and he was fabulous, but the mayor can say, well, we need to have jobs, we need to have this, but okay, well, how are we going to do this? And Transform Rockford did an amazing job at seeing past that loss of manufacturing and made it a destination for technology and families, and they have a very large aeronautic industry, but the difference in communities is how resilient you can be when you lose what you have.
What's integration like in Rockford?
I don't think any of the organizations I worked with will say, we're there. It's better than it was. I know that Chattanooga, another community we modeled after, said it's not any different. So I can't speak to the statistics or whatever, but we have a lot of work to do in our community. As much as I love it, I am the first person to say we have a lot of work to do.
So since you opened Soch, what's been your greatest surprise? Like, oh, I didn't expect it to be that hard.
Oh man, at 57 you think you have it pretty well covered, you know? I'm a lifelong learner and I learn every single day. Racine packs a lot of surprises. My biggest eye-opener has been coming from the nonprofit field into the profit field. My eyes have been opened as to how I acted as a nonprofit person, now being a profit person. And let me give an
I was
example.
gonna say, shed some more light on that.
Yeah, so my job
Break
as
down,
the director of a nonprofit is to obviously be mindful of spending. And we were a community engagement organization, which meant we had meetings everywhere. And we had to have incentives sometimes for these meetings, which meant pizza or subs, or we had to have food brings people together. But we needed so many spaces with 500 volunteers that we were constantly asking where we could have these meetings or these events. And we would ask profit, small business, can we just have your space? And now I look back and think, oh man, wow, I can't have that expectation anymore. I know and I'm going to say uncorked right out of the gate, because Tony is so generous, and the branch.
Yeah.
And both of those I'll probably refer to often as a new small business owner. They are so generous with their space and their time. Because when you go to a space, you expect the lights will be on, and you have a bathroom to go to, and those all cost money.
Yeah.
And as a nonprofit director, it never occurred to me,
Yeah.
really. And I say that and I feel so stupid looking back, and now I think I can't ever have an expectation like that again. I'm pulling together a mini Taste of Racine for an upcoming event here. And
One of the events we did, we were in a networking group together.
yeah, and 20 people. I have 11 small business, and I should also say, for the record, I, as a small business owner, make it a point, a focus, a goal to partner with local small businesses who are local, minority-owned, or women-owned. 6th Street alone, the largest percentage of businesses on this street alone are women-owned. Christina, Shelley, you know it. You're women-owned businesses here. But this community, the small businesses are the heartbeat and the pulse of a community. And there will never be a Chick-fil-A buffet in this building. I said it, Chick-fil-A. Can I say that on camera? I'm just kidding. I have met with numerous restaurants, Taste of Soul, Deja Vu, all the way down the line. There's so many restaurants that are wonder. Joey's Yard who walked in and said, whoa, this is a great space. So going back again, I have that's my biggest awake moment, has been that transition from nonprofit to profit. And my heart aches for the nonprofits who come to me and say, we really want to use your space. And I struggle because, and I do have a flat rate for nonprofits. I have a normal rate, I guess. And when I first opened, I threw it out to the community that coming out of COVID, if you're a nonprofit and you're ready for a face-to-face meeting, I would like you to host your first one here. Like, so I'm on the board at Halo, and to get people in that building, the percentages and stuff, we had to keep a limit on how many people could be there at one time. And I wanted an opportunity to still be part of this community and support it in a different way, if that makes sense. So I've had a few nonprofits take me up on that. It hasn't happened yet, but they're coming. And I'll throw it out there. I have to support this community that I love. Shelley, I threw out an idea to you today. What if we had on First Fridays, like a nonprofit space here where 8 nonprofits can just have their stuff, have someone here to chat with. And it's not like First Fridays is the place where people come shopping for nonprofits in our community, but if those nonprofits put out the word that, hey, if you're, every organization is going to be hurting for volunteers. We were hurting before COVID. We're hurting more now, since I'm constantly trying to reinvent how I think about this use of space and how it can benefit this community.
Yeah.
What do you love so much about the Racine community?
My gut answer is always the people. Because I've met so many people who have their sleeves rolled up, recognize it's an amazing place, but recognize we have work to do. We're the second worst city in the United States for African Americans. We cannot be a thriving community until not just being off that damn list, but that damn list doesn't even exist. I know how hard people work here and how passionate many of them are to work on that effort and be right here, not on top. We're not going to solve anything from the people on top. It's got to be the people in the community. What else? Lake Michigan, man, it's one of the treasures of the world that have this large freshwater lake. In speaking with so many people during my VGR work, I learned that the transplants, those who moved into Racine, are our biggest cheerleaders. The natives are our biggest critics. Racine sucks, man. There's nothing to do. Can't get a job. No, that's not the case. You have to be involved to know what to do. When I know a lot of the people at Real Racine, and I ask them that visitor center on the highway, when people drive through and buy a Kringle and look at what they can, what do people say when they're here and they came in? And Paul Holly said, seriously, the 3 words they say is, oh my God, what a treasure of a community. This beach is amazing. The Kringles are amazing. We've got new microbreweries popping up. We have hardworking people on an incredible natural resource. Again, I'll be its biggest cheerleader till the day I die, but I'm still going to be working hard to make sure that it's a place for everyone to have the same opportunity here.
That's awesome. I'm kind of.
I get a little teary, sorry. I'm
Yeah, you should.
emotional.
And no,
So I moved here from Oregon a year ago. I actually lived in southeastern Milwaukee. I work here, but the first time I came to Racine, I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful town, the beautiful old buildings, and like so historic. There's so much potential here, and I was like kind of blown away because I had heard some rumors before I started working at the space, like people who are from here, like what you said, kind of critics, like, oh, Racine sucks, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, oh, no, it doesn't at all. It's so cool here, and I'm really excited to be a part of helping to like revitalize it. Even though I don't live here, I feel part of the community.
What do you do?
I manage the atmosphere collaboratives,
Oh, nice.
the co-working.
And for someone from Oregon to come here and say it's a beautiful place, I mean, knowing that part of the country too. No, there's so many ways to, and any person who says there's nothing to do, bring them on. Bring them on. Look at Monument Square last night, bags tournament, packed. You know,
And I swim twice.
yeah,
Record. Out of 9.
that is our living room. Monument Square is our freaking living room. There should be something happening there every day of the week. I've always dreamt of a 100-foot long table.
Is that what the dinosaur statues are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
right.
Chinese lanterns.
Oh, yeah.
Long tables with a community potluck. Let anybody just show up.
Yeah.
Because honestly, everything I learned about when working with Visioning a Greater Racine is food brings people together. And because we have such an incredibly diverse community, how cool would it be?
What night of the week should we do that? Should we do it once a month or?
You know, there's some, it's called Open Table, there's some kind of org that does it, but Friendship Atlanta
I'm
does
just
it.
saying, I have a 6-foot table I'll bring.
I
We all
how many
start bringing a table
How many do you want? I've got them.
and then just say, meet us down on Monument Square.
Or even kick it up a notch and say, hey, Maple Table, hey, you know, let's support these small businesses.
Yeah.
And hey, Salutes, deliver some pizzas and let's
Yeah.
get all the, see, that's what keeps me awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because
Yeah.
I wanna sit down with someone that doesn't look like me and doesn't know me in order for me to begin to try and understand and begin to try and support. And, you know, that's where it's gonna happen. It's not gonna be at some large yada yada. Also, after bags last night, smoked on water, packed. Packed. As diverse as this community is what was happening down there. I don't think we have that anywhere else in this community. You know, Bob and I went there after bags and had a PBR and a hot dog. It was like $8.
Bring it.
And there were probably 35, 40 people down there just reflecting our diverse community, and it was magnificent to see.
What time are we doing that next Monday?
Well, I say we pregame like at
Yeah.
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you play at 6:30?
6:30. Yeah, I'm constantly trying to, and it is really self-serving because I'm trying to obviously be the best person I can be, but make the place around me a place where everyone is comfortable, proud, and, you know, wants to be here.
So, I mean, I think, you know, even though you had kind of stepped back a little bit from nonprofit, I still feel like you're doing a lot of the same work through your business.
Well, I'm not yet making a profit, so that's.
Well, yeah, so you're right on, you're right.
This is very true. No,
I know, I've said that to a lot of people, they're like, are you a for-profit or nonprofit? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
operating as a nonprofit.
Yes.
For a little bit,
that's accurate.
but I'm registered as a for-profit business.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's, you know, I think if you try to, I mean, you know, some people, they wanna buy a franchise and run it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of already set up for them, and that's their goal. But I think both you and I have created businesses where our purpose is to help people,
Mhm.
you know, and create a space for people to find their own kind of transformation in one way or the other.
Yeah, and Chick-fil-A employs local people, so
Yeah,
they aren't.
I mean,
employing
there's
anybody.
nothing wrong with those, you know, kind of, you know, big box stores. I mean, they do create jobs here, but I think these are the kind of businesses that make the community richer.
Agreed. And now when you said the Porter's Lot, it's sold, it's going to be developed, I wanna say 200 apartments or 200 people, something like that.
And like
Man,
stores on the bottom too.
We are in the right place at the right time, which people in Racine haven't been able to say for a long time.
Zons. that
Yeah.
hotel, and then
And it's actively being worked on because
festival or whatever
that new roof.
What's building at the end of our block? That's empty.
that was the Zahn's building, and they're making it a boutique hotel.
With a rooftop bar.
So I mean, so there's some, to have this, wellness center spot.
Go up to the block.
Yes.
I'll meet you at
Lots of cool
Yeah.
stuff.
To the city.
And the rumor on the street is that same company is buying up the post office and the feds just won't sell it to them. So, I mean, can you imagine?
Which property?
Post office.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be cool as a
That would be
boutique hotel with a rooftop bar? And that just tapping into the marina business down here.
Yeah,
It's something people here don't really even think about. So I did a COVID thing and I bought a sailboat last summer.
you did?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
came to this for a reason.
It was not a surprise to Bob. Because growing
Bob's
up here,
amazing. It's really.
I have to say, Bob is like,
He is like,
so after the conversation I had with Jada, I'm sorry, not Jada, with Chris, I went home and I said to Bob, my husband, say, Bob,
he is.
I think, Chris just made me this offer and I think I'm gonna open a business. And he's like, let's do it. No hesitation. And when I found this boat on Marketplace last summer, growing up here, if you ever had the luxury of on somebody else's boat going down the river to go out to Lake Michigan, I will never forget thinking, ooh, that one's gonna be mine. Ooh, I want that one. Someday I'm gonna have that. So when I found this boat, and Bob knows how important water is to me. I mean, go down to the beach, if you're wearing a blood pressure cuff, you're gonna watch your blood pressure drop instantly. Not low, dangerous, but there's something about the metaphysical part of being near water that really physically affects people, and that is also me. So I find this boat, and I said, Bob, I think I wanna get a boat, and he didn't say no. So my really good friend and nonprofit, because I'm also executive director of my own education nonprofit, went down and looked at this boat. He's a pilot / sailor and said, yeah, for what you're paying for it, it's a good entry-level boat. So we bought it and we sailed it from Waukegan to Racine with John, the sailor. And right now we're in an 8-week sailing class. We didn't take it out at all last year. It's my little floating hotel because I just like being on the boat. I like reading a book and having a glass of wine and sitting and I'm a boater. I don't know a freaking thing about sailing it, but I'm a boater.
A lot of boaters do that though, like maybe they go on the water sometimes, but the rest of it.
Undermotor.
Yeah, hanging out with the boat people.
It's just
Are you close to the Clementine?
Clementine to the Reef. And actually, my original thought was to do an Airbnb. I even have a business plan for it. It was going to be called A Grateful Place on a Great Lake. And because the name of our boat is Ripple, which has 2 factors. We're a deadhead family, but also I have always said ripples make waves. In my educational work with water, I have worked with young people so they realize and understand as a young person you can affect change. Like these 2 sisters in Bali who were 11 and 13 ended up getting the whole island banning plastic bags, and I exposed a lot of children and students to young people who could make change. So ripples make waves. So it's a duo name meaning. So when I say a grateful place, it's going to be a dead boat. It's going to be a grateful dead boat. It's 1976 model, and we're flying the dead flag. But when I say grateful, it's like spelled like Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it's not nearly as beautiful as Clementine. This is a total fiberglass boat that smells like a boat.
Where do you have it from?
She's not in the water yet. She'll be at Pew. Yep,
Where is that?
it's on the river by the chart room, the old chart room.
Yeah.
We just need some businesses to get into there to make that happen in place.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with, the vision of making Racine better and getting the community to kind of step up and kind of help itself by getting together, what's, I guess, the main thing, your list of things to do to just engage them?
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring it back to the race thing because I have the elephant in the room behind me. It's always been the number one issue that we as a community have to deal with. I've had somewhat of a revelation because for white women, white people that want to be allies and support and stand, because I know, and we're told, read this book, White Fragility, read this book, Unlearning Racism, read this book. And I did, and you know what? I'm done reading. I'm not. That's not putting into practice. I mean, yes, it does give you some foundational things, but working with DeAndre Mayfield and the main project, this man is the most humble man who all he wanted to do was help kids learn to help themselves. So working with DeAndre is my way of, I'm not gonna be, standing on a soapbox because I kind of made a rule for myself. And when it comes to a situation in working in our community, when it comes to race, I'll either A, step aside, B, hand you the microphone, or C, stand with you and say, however I can be of assistance, I'm here for you. I will never understand, but I do want you to know I'm here for you, and I can't allow this to continue happening in my community. So like working with Scott Terry on the Black Humanity Now mural in front of the courthouse, he's looking for volunteers right now to help paint. And you don't have to be an artist, but working alongside people in this community, that's easy. I don't know, I just saw in his webpage, it's gorgeous, whoever's doing his webpage. Is it Black Humanity Now? He's on Facebook.
Yeah, he's got a Facebook group as well.
But he opened an art gallery in Uptown. It's now like the hub of Black
amazing
cultural
stuff.
activity in our community. Those are the places we need to be, at Scott's, at DeAndre's. That to me, and like I work with Pastor Jerry Cornett on a meal program. I found out that there's only 1 or 2 free meals a week in this community for the underserved community. What are they doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, So
it's decreased because when we were in VGR, it was to a point that I think it was -1 day that there was some.
it's building back up. So the way I do it is I've gone from being a very public profile in working to better our community to just Joan saying, Pastor Cornett, what do you need from me to make this Friday night thing happen? I work Monday nights at the hot meal program that the Racine Baptist Church does out of the hospitality center. I love, it's like life-giving just to be in that kitchen working with a Hispanic church or whatever organization is putting on the food that night. Now, hospitality center is going up to 50%, I think, because hospitality center was providing in-center meals and had to switch to all takeaway food. And now they're ramping back up. But I can't tell any one person how it's going to work for you, but how I do it is I just want to be under the radar. I'm on a personal journey and working with those quiet leaders, humble leaders like Scott Terry or DeAndre Mayfield, Pastor Cornett. Now they're a Friday night, we have a Monday, Tuesday at the hospitality center, so we're getting there. But like I said, anybody who has no idea, thinks nothing's going on here, I'd be happy to connect you with. And I would probably say my entire life I could be titled as a professional connector,
She totally is.
a serial pollinator.
I remember one of our first lunches, whatever, we went, we were just sitting, talking about stuff. It could have even been when you were first recruiting people for VGR. And we were sitting there, and then you found out from somebody, you're like, oh, somebody needs a bike for this person so they can get to work or whatever. And then she said, hold on a second. So she made a couple calls, and all of a sudden a bike gets delivered to this person within like minutes. And I was like, how did you just do that? That's kind of stuff.
I still do that, because
Yeah.
that's so important.
She does stuff like that all the time. It's just like this little, you're a little person just moving, making stuff move in this town.
Well, our community's losing a real treasure in two people, Pastor Warren and Joni Williams. They have been, she does street outreach for homeless men. And they're moving to Washington State to be with their daughter. And those calls would usually come from somebody like Joni or Dixie Van Brendan saying, I've got a guy who needs a bike. And then, does he have a helmet? No, so you go get the guy a helmet, but we're losing my deep throats. I have to find new connections, to make sure. And I'm so blessed, and yes, I'll use the word blessed, to have the opportunity to be a conduit and the opportunity to have this space and share this space and be what I feel is in the right place at the right time. I'm the richest girl in town.
Hey. That's why, it's so important for me to showcase people like you, because this is, you would just on if you don't know Joan, it's like, oh, this is an event space. Just a person who likes to host events, and that's all. You think that
And for parties.
You just think that that's all that's going on, but it's not. There's so much more, and that's what I want to shine a light on.
Thank you. We've always enjoyed each other's energies, spirits, conversations.
So Joan across the crowded room.
This is true.
It really is. It was my first. It was my first. I was a guest at a Temple Racine meeting, and they're like, let's take a moment. And they hardly would ever do this either. From that point on, this never really happened. But they were like, stand up and go say hi to somebody that you don't know. And I really didn't know anybody. And so I look, and then all of a sudden, there's Joan across the room. She had this, her hair was up, and she had red accessories on. That's her favorite color. And I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to that woman. And I did, and it was oh.
When I thought killer bangs and cat eye glasses.
Just hit it off.
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. And I don't know strangers. They're just people I haven't met and become friends with yet. So gosh, I totally get a blood rush over new people. I get to meet new people today. So thank you for coming.
What is your business model? You tell us something about that some.
Yeah. So I Windsor Fire Consulting started as a mobile pop-up wellness business. I've been working in wellness for a while, and I had a business partner when I started, and she didn't last. She had to move on to her own stuff, but so it was all about taking wellness services and popping them up in businesses like this, to kind of just get people the opportunity to take care of themselves. Everybody waits until it's a hospital visit, or it's something really big that maybe makes people change something in their lives. And so I wanted to try to put it more in people's faces. Racine's pretty tough for that business. Wisconsin in general is not as far on board with wellness as a lot of other West Coast. Everybody's New York, Chicago, everyone's like, whatever, you're not doing this. So it had been a tough few years, and then I was finally working out of Racine Community Acupuncture in Franksville, and had started doing Reiki out of there, and was going to rent a room and then COVID happened. So then that just, everything shut down. And so then the opportunity to, I was working for the property manager for the building that both Shelley and I are in, and there was a space, and I was like, oh, this space, and it was in terrible shape. I want this space, and I'm like, stop showing people this space because I need to figure out how to make it mine. And I had this, I'm like, I just was at a point of I'm like, people are hurting. I need to make a bigger impact with wellness and make a wellness center. And I made it so that, much like Atmosphere is a co-working space, this is the same concept, but just for wellness practitioners. So people who've lost their space or who are wanting to start but can't, maybe afford their own space and pay for all that stuff. It's an entry level, a re-entry level or an entry level for people to come in. And then it's, much like Joan wants, it's an experience for people to come in and feel it. And also, like Joan, I'm very passionate about the community and realize that not everybody can afford wellness. It's really still considered a luxury. So trying to build these partnerships with nonprofits so that people who would not normally have access to find the people to help make access for those, like veterans or like people who are survivors of like sexual assault or things, people who need healing, basically. And so that's my big thing, is to make this space. So you're all welcome to come by.
That's cool, yeah.
Check it out, because we're on the same, I think, wavelength as far as like letting people walk in and be wowed by their environment, and then it allows them to experience whatever they're there for even more. So practitioner.
And what's your practice? If you said I don't.
Reiki.
Okay.
So we're gonna Reiki up this town. So
Maybe we should have a Reiki Racine kind of. I know I throw these things out.
yeah,
It's yours now, take it.
Dang it, where am I gonna?
You're welcome.
Gonna need a bigger purse. Yeah, no, Jones. Yeah, you'll spitfire all sorts of ideas, but it's
awesome.
It's been good, and we both enjoy that kind of like event, just bringing people into things, and I think that's what we're both good at. And then I also like surrounding myself with people who are good support. Like I taught Shelley into renting the space below me. We're gonna add a fireman's pole or something.
It'll be unisex, don't worry.
And then, I put my accountant next door to me, so I just keep, bringing all these people. But I think we both love working around strong women and just getting these businesses up and going. So it always feels like it's more than just a business. It's connections, community.
So
Relationships.
much like this.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I feel good to be a part of this because I don't live here, and I felt kind of weird, like I'm helping to manage the space, and I haven't felt like involved in the community yet. So I feel really excited to be a part of this. And
You're here now, and you're not gonna be let go, so I mean.
Yeah.
Well, she drank the
Yeah.
I moved here because I rent space from her, for my radio business, and she was like, oh, we have this thing, and I met her, Shelley, through her, and she
Not
does,
on her insurance.
she, yeah, and now I can't, so, I know the people in this room.
No one is safe.
So,
Yeah, leads me to my next thing too. How do you encourage, or what advice do you have for someone who would like to be an entrepreneur and keep a business here in Racine? Because we go back and forth about staying here and leaving, but
all the time.
your story reminds me of why I want to stay here. When we drive around, we're also looking for a house. There's just so many opportunities for people who don't have housing and just things that are kind of parts of the town that are dead. Like, why aren't we doing anything with these places?
Oh my gosh.
So that really resonated with me, that there's still life here to build, and to switch it around and be the Racine we used to be. And being in that, minority group that really needs to get activated to take advantage of opportunities here. We also don't know where the opportunities are for us. So we don't have anybody saying,
LGBTQ board,
right here.
Halo board, there's, but when you said that about how we value things here, I had a stake through my heart seeing a picture of the rubble of Walden. They tore down that building.
I knew that was happening.
Which one? The building on Center, it was Walden in its late years, but I don't know what it was. But I look at that and I think, why couldn't that be a housing thing, but when I have $1 million,
And that's
I can't even bring myself to drive past it.
No, that was the first one, I think, when I was.
Yeah, on South Street.
They just tore it down.
I just knew that it was over there now.
But I think
Where did that come from? I know, your mind's like,
the first Walden.
Because I went to the first one.
In McMinn Building.
I'm sorry?
The first Walden was where the McMinn Towers stand right now. That was
I don't
the
know
first
if that
Walden.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
There was an old building where the McMinn Towers now stand, and that was the very first Walden.
Okay, I didn't go to that one.
So my sister
I'm only 40, y'all.
My sister was in the very first graduating class at Walden, and they didn't even have their own school status yet. So technically, she graduated from Park High School because they didn't even. But senior year, my sister was at St. Cat's, freshman, sophomore, junior, and taking Russian, and Walden didn't offer Russian, so they made an agreement that my sister could go from Walden to St. Cat's, take her Russian class, and come back. And she had to throw her little skirt uniform on to go to St. Cat's and then take it off. Anyway, let's do this more.
Yeah.
We don't need to have anyone in the spotlight, but even if we just had like a power once a month thing, like, let me think of a clever name for it, Chick Confab or something like that. Where we just welcome people into the community, like Jess and Nikki and.
Where would you move Nikki if you left?
I've left a couple times. I've gone to the East Coast, so I kind of favor like New York and New Jersey.
No one ever says I'm going to New Jersey.
New York, I get it. New Jersey.
We want you to stay.
But my heart's been kind of going West Coast, like for the sunshine and just someplace different.
I get it.
I just moved here from West Coast and it's great, but it's super expensive. That's why we came out here.
Yeah. So you have a family here.
Yes, well, in the Chicago suburbs, yeah.
Okay.
Nice. So you're
My
close.
in-laws are there.
Okay.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I grew up here, and then my family moved away when I was like 10. And then my family moved back while I was off doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then came back, married, moved away, spent 12 years-ish, Florida, Georgia area, and then moved back to Wisconsin in 2012, and have been back in Racine since last year. Oh, divorced, and now I say part is important, right? Yeah.
Well, tomorrow I have a cookie pop-up here for First Fridays, and my Becca's making pride cookies.
Yay, they're beautiful.
We have a circus on Saturday, so many things going on. I'll be open tomorrow night if y'all are walking around and you've got belief at your place. So we need a Firestarters coffee, something like that.
Yes.